Good morning, YouTube. This is your garden update. Now, I did not get a chance to put out an update for weeks 5 or 6, and this should be week 7. There was a lot to do, trying to get it done by a certain time, and with all the rain that we were getting, if it wasn't raining, I needed to be planting. So I didn't do any videos, and so I had nothing to edit on the rainy days. But in this amount of time, I have great news. All of my food is planted. Now, I'm still working on some of the flowers, some of the perennial herbs, but all the food is planted with one exception, my sweet peppers. I have 2 planted. I have 8 more hardening off, but had a little trouble with some seedlings, and I need to replant again. So, I'm not sure which varieties are going to do best that will actually germinate, because Jimmy Nardello would have been a safe pick, but none of those will germinate. I've apparently killed my seeds, not taking good enough care of them. I don't store them exactly the way you're supposed to. They just sit in my bedroom up on a shelf. And I haven't gotten any seed from the Jimmy Nardello in a couple years. So they're all a few years old. But other than the sweet peppers, which I'm still working on, all my food is in. My tomato bed is all planted. There's 32 tomatoes. Basically, the front wall is all the stuff we like to eat fresh, mostly slicers. And the back wall is a couple slicers that wouldn't fit in the front, and the rest is all like paste type tomatoes. We've got Amish paste, San Marzano, Paul Robeson, Cherokee purple, pink ox heart, red brandy wine, pineapple, German pink, and triple crop. Some only have a couple, like 2 or 3 plants per variety, and some as much as 6. Cherokee purple was my favorite last year, so yeah, there's 6 of those in that bed. I finished planting in the block holes on the front. I transplanted my basil in there. I've got sweet basil and lettuce leaf basil. I put nasturtium seeds in the ones that look empty. I still have my dill up on this end, but I planted that earlier. I put pansy all along the back wall, and none of them seem to have come up. It probably got too dry because I wasn't watering, but we were getting so much rain, I thought it would be all right. Must not have been. But I think in the last video I talked a little bit about the mounds that I wanted to put in for watermelon, mostly. We've got 3 mounds. Each mound I put several seeds in. I'll leave probably 3 plants in each mound. 2 mounds are sugar baby watermelons, and the last one I put Orangelo watermelon, but they have not come up, so I will probably replant with something else. In the smaller bed here, I've got the cucumbers on the end, which I had planted earlier. The back, well, the front wall is calendula, and those are mostly up. There's a couple empty spots. There's also a couple spots with 2. So I think I'm just gonna like transplant the extras around instead of putting new seed in. And inside the bed, the rest of that is corn, and that's all up. So things are going quite well over here. Hot peppers are doing okay. In front of my front porch, we tilled, amended, and mulched even though the torrential rain we got kind of moved the mulch. And down there in the middle, my yarrow, one of my yarrow is planted. The weeds are terrible in this bed, but it looks like all of the yellow squash and zucchini came up. But I don't think any of the cucumber on this backside came up. Or I might have one cucumber there. Which is a shame because I already had to use a lot of zucchini last year to make enough relish. It looks like I'm gonna have to do that again this year. Maybe for next year, maybe I should start the cucumber in the house just to ensure germination. And then after I transplant it, then put the zucchini seed in the ground, because I never seem to have much trouble growing zucchini that's direct seeded. But cucumber has been hit and miss. The Blahhild beans, which is a purple potted pole bean, those are all up on both sides of the trellis. And the runner beans, which are on the next trellis, are getting quite big. Pumpkin have sprouted. We'll see how well I can keep them contained this year. Now, this mound, nothing came up. I had 2 Yamato cream watermelon seeds, and I put the other 2 in that mound, and those are up. So at least I'm gonna have 2 of them. Hopefully I can save seed and grow a lot more next year, if we like them, of course. And then along the stakes are the cherry tomatoes. I've only got 4 this year. 2 blueberries cherry and 2 sunrise bumblebee. Dry beans are up. We've got kidney beans, and pinto beans. The kidney beans seem to have come up a little better than the pinto beans did. And then over here is black beans. Not as much because I'm really the only one that likes them. And the black holes down here are golden wax beans. The onion are getting quite large. Oregano needs cut back again. Peppers hardening off. Look at these potatoes. Potatoes are flowering. Peas are flowering. And some of them are like 5 feet tall. Now, unfortunately, as for my garlic, I came out one day and saw that a bunch of them had fallen over. It looked like someone walked through the bed. So I went to pull those ones out and they were rotting in the soil. So I went ahead and pulled all my garlic, which made them small. There's still a good bit of edible garlic there, but they're small. And I'm not saving any to plant next year. I was worried there wouldn't even be any cloves, but they were starting to split in cloves. But I had to pull them all. I just went ahead and dehydrated all of it. I think, even though I've grown garlic there just fine for the past couple of years, I think because we didn't trim this tree, it got thicker. Didn't get so much bigger, but it got thicker. And I think it was just blocking too much light. And we were getting a good bit of rain, and it just wasn't enough light to dry it out in between the rain. So I'm going to find a new place for them next year. Although I've gotten permission to take the tree down. So that will change a lot of things next year. Now, I really want to make the most of my garden this year. So I've got some empty spaces that I want to figure out what I'm going to fill it with, like the garlic for space for one thing. It's a 4x4 bed. I want to fill it with something, but I haven't decided. I've got the purple arch down there that I haven't decided what I'm going to put up that yet, which goes down into the garlic bed, or what was the garlic bed. So I still have some room that I'm playing with, and let's see what else that I have that I can put out here. I also did not get very good germination on my carrots. Out of a 4x4 section, I have 4 carrots. That's not good. Also, none of the early beets that I planted came up. And only about half the lettuce, well, a little less than half the lettuce that I planted came up. It's getting big, so it's time to start harvesting the lettuce, actually, and probably the radishes. But that leaves a lot of space in the bed, too, for other things. I'm going to try some heat-tolerant lettuce to grow in the middle of the season, because, you know, by the time the tomatoes are ready and the cucumbers are ready, the lettuce wants to bolt. And I want cucumber and tomato in my salads. And I don't have a greenhouse or any kind of controlled setting to grow my lettuce in. I don't do hydroponics. I don't have the space in the house to do that kind of a thing. It would be nice, but I don't have that kind of room. Not with the kids all still living here. Maybe after they move out, when they're older, I could dedicate a room to that, but that's gonna be years. If we're even still in this house by then. But I have more space that I'm trying to play with. The front section of the house only has one thing planted in it. So I'm still messing with flowers that I need to germinate to put in the rest of that bed. It did get flooded the other day when we had yet another tornado warning. Which that space, it's hard. It stays dry most of the time because the porch roof comes over it and keeps most rain off of it, unless we get a downpour, and then it floods, which moved all the mulch around. But it also is the west side, so it only gets late afternoon sun, and a lot of things don't like to grow in that kind of environment. So it's tricky. I've got yarrow there. I'm gonna try some echinacea and some hibiscus, but I gotta get them germinated. The early hibiscus that I tried kind of died, which is my fault, but I haven't gotten around to getting new seeds ready. So I'm still playing with flowers. I've got to start yet some more sweet peppers and see what I want to fill these spaces with. Some of the shorter term things, especially, and things that can take the heat. So I apparently am not getting any cabbage from the spring because none of it even germinated. I planted more beets in between the tomatoes in the tomato wall. We'll see if those come up, because that bed does need to stay hydrated because of the tomatoes. Tomatoes are very thirsty. So I'm hoping that will help the beets as well. This is the first year I'm trying the tomatoes with the beets. But we'll see how that comes up. Waiting on a lot of things here just to get bigger and grow stronger. But the strawberries are starting to come in. It's gonna be soon for the peas because they're flowering. The potatoes are probably gonna be another month. I think next year I'm going to try and grow the peas in the block holes instead of in the bed, and that gives me space to do another row of potatoes and increase the yield of what I'm getting in this space. Should have done that this year, but I didn't think of it until later. I was like, it's already planted. But the pea roots are not very big. They don't take up much space, and as long as it's good soil in the block holes, I think they'll be all right. I haven't tried growing them in block holes before, but I think I'm going to try that for next year. And I am going to try and just plant my next year potatoes this year when I pull everything out, because everything I put in trying to get a second harvest last summer that didn't start sprouting, they all came up in the spring. So, could probably wait a little longer before I put them in there. But I'm going to get them nice and planted so they're ready to go. And then I would just have to add the peas in the spring. But I would love to get more potatoes in that space and have 3 rows instead of just the 2. So lots of things are coming up. My sunflowers are getting bigger. I don't think the Malabar spinach has germinated yet. But that'll be pretty as it grows up the trellis. But the Malabar spinach does take a while to germinate. But anyway, this turned out to be more of a garden tour than just the growing update. But that's because I was trying to fit 3 weeks worth of stuff in here. Hopefully it's not too long for you. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for coming along with me today. May the Father bless you. Shalom.